just want to offer my thoughts on Monarch Legacy of Monsters, the Monsterverse TV show over on Apple Plus. I Chris Black has been the one who's really been key to bringing this to light. But I will say it also is developed by Matt Fraction, who we know from Marvel Comics, particularly Hawkeye and Kate Bishop and that kind of stuff. So I want to get to what I think are some of the good points of the show, what I don't like. 5 episodes in, I will say I wish there was actually more kaiju and more monsters. However, I'm not going to totally dismiss that as being a bad thing because they do handle some of those elements well. Now, what I like about the show is the initial 2 episodes, directed by Matt Shackman, wrote by Chris Black. Episode 1 was bogged down with the backstory in the real time in 2015, with the fact that you have 2 kids who are finding out that their dad was a polygamist and had a mother and had a wife in 2 different places in San Francisco and in Japan. And all of that part is the least interesting element there at all. The flashback sequence deals with Bill Randa, who was the John Goodman character, and there's a quick little cut of his character, but you end up with that, and that ultimately leads you down the rabbit hole where you get Wyatt Russell, who he and his dad, Kurt Russell, play the same character, Lee Shaw, who's a military guy, kind of the liaison to the Bill Randa character and the other researchers for the Godzilla and the original kaiju stuff from the past into the present. And by the time we get to the second episode, where you start to have tie-ins with the radiation-based dragon, and you have the fact that they're sort of like piecing this puzzle together a little bit, and it points to Alaska, which leads into episode 3, where we have the Frostvark that attacks, and we get all that. Now, it all moves pretty well, and I actually don't dislike most of the show. At times, each piece works better than another. Wyatt Russell is fantastic, and he is fantastic as a precursor to Kurt Russell. Now, Kurt Russell's scenes work because Kurt Russell knows Kurt Russell, right? He knows his lane. He knows what he's playing. The cheeky, silly minivan chase scene and the some of that stuff, I don't like any of that. That was some of the worst parts that had to do with that element. But once they're in there, and some of the survival stuff was a little bit drawn out in Alaska, but the San Francisco stuff, which got into the more recent episode 5. Now, I liked almost all of it. I love the concept of being thrust back into San Francisco and her dealing with the PTSD of the Godzilla attack. But it becomes so tedious with her personal life. And she had this relationship because, of course, she's a lesbian, because it's written by Amanda Overton, which you don't know. She gets a lot of credit because she is involved with Arcane, but she's one of these, we're going to get to others, they're lesbian obsessed. This is what you're just going to expect from them. They're not going to be able to do a product without having to. I don't know which character she's inserting herself as, because she kind of resembles the teacher. I don't know, just me. Maybe it's a self-insert or not, you guys decide. But it doesn't really bog down the fact that it's still dealing with like how the humans are surviving with the Titans. And it is sort of like a little bit of them trying to figure out the files and all that. It's kind of drug on enough. So now that we get a little closer to what's going to go on, I'm interested to see how that's going to play out. Now, I say all that knowing what we have learned from Apple Plus, and this show in particular, is if you think them buying Disney is going to undo woke or whatever, you're completely insane. These people are as bad, if not worse, than Disney. And it's only going to get worse because we haven't had Matt Fraction's episode, and we haven't had, I kid you not, the episode that's written by Mariko Tamaki. So the queen of self-inserts. If you don't know who Mariko Tamaki is, I'll put a link in the description of her comic book. She is the famous Don't Call Me Starfire girl. She's that one. She's the self-insert that do I Am Not Starfire, where she wrote about Mandy, looked just like her. Yeah, so that self-insert we will all know and pick out of a crowd because that's what she tends to do on her comic books. So that's what we're going to get. We're going to get that. I will say, for whatever reason, Chris Black appears to have a pretty good direction, but the formula is exactly the same as everything else that we've seen with Marvel and maybe other shows. Is the creator, the person that comes to the table with an idea, They're in charge of episodes 1, 2, and in this case, episode 10, the last one, and all the rest of this is in the middle. Now, again, like I said, episode 1 and 2, like only half of that was good. It got a little better with 3 and 2 and 3, and then kind of petered out a little bit. But I feel like the meat and potatoes of them doing shows like this, doing content like this, is the same. They get the person that was passionate, that wants to do, here, you write the beginning, you write the end. They hire all these people that fill in this stuff, and they get in the middle with these whiteboards and all that other nonsense. So it's sort of one of those, it's better than most things or many things, but it is not great and tremendous. It's a lot of human, not a lot of kaiju, but that can change. I'm not going to be totally opposed because we're only halfway, but I will say we've kind of lingered on the humans quite a lot lately since the Frostvark. We can only have so much with this PTSD thing. We need to get to something else. So that's kind of where we're at on things. I'm enjoying the show. I'm looking forward to the next episode. Are any of you watching it? I know with the concept of this show, Godzilla minus one, and even if it doesn't excite most fans, I know that's kind of the word, is the Godzilla versus Kong movie thing. It's not, but that puts Godzilla in the lexicon of America or entertainment in the last few weeks. That's pretty crazy to think about. So that was my thoughts on this show. I just thought I'd throw this out there. I didn't really want to do an episode by episode. Some people have, probably doing way better than I can give insight. I'm not as knowledgeable in the lore to know what Easter eggs they might be having. I wasn't really that familiar with the Frostvark. I had to look it up. I guess it's pretty new. I didn't know that or not. So anyway, that's my take on everything. Love to hear from you guys. Yeah, take care. Talk to you soon.